it's kind of a garbage term, right? We really call it MTSS or tibialis periosteitis, depending on the severity where we are in the injury. But generally speaking, what's going to happen with a shin splint is that typically they're anterior, right? There's the issue with the anterior tibialis that is tractioning off of the bone. That's why there's pain. It's pulling, it's tractioning, and it's creating a force on the bone, which if it does this long enough, without proper support and treatment, it's going to pull and create enough tension on the bone that then it creates a stress reaction and or can lead to more of a stress injury here. Okay, so not only do we have then tissue involvement, we've got bony involvement. Okay, so we want to really get to this as quickly as possible, the underlying reason for the shin splint. But that's what we do in treatment. If the athlete is presenting and they're about to go run a race or run any event that they're doing, the basketball, a court sport, whatever it is, and your job is to get them on the court or the field, you've got to have something in your toolbox that can help them support the area while continuing to play, if that's really what they should be doing, right? So you have to sort of always make those judgments. Do we really need to be playing right now? If the answer from the athlete is yes, then we need something to support the tissue. So we're going to show you the unload. So what we're going to do is, when you're dealing with the unload, first of all, you need to find this most center point of the injury. Okay, where is the traction happening? Where is the most pain for the athlete? And so you would try to start figuring that out, kind of coming up. Where does it hurt? Right here? Oh, that makes them jump, right? Or you can ask them, show me, where is the worst part for you? And they might stand and like move around and then find it, and you mark an X. Okay, you want to X marks the spot. So if I'm just working with the athlete, she's already on the table and she tells me right there is the worst, I make my little X. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go beyond that. So we're going to say, okay, how far up is their pain until it sort of subsides? Like right there, great. How far down? Ouch, ouch. Okay, yes, less, no pain there. You know the border on this side has to be the tibia, right? That's where it's attaching to. So you're going to anchor beyond the tibia, because we don't want to anchor on the tibia, because then we're just going to be pulling the tape on the tibia. That's where the injury is. We've got to go beyond that. And then you're going to come this far out and you're going to be like, how are we doing out here? Okay, no problem there. So now we've got our borders. So this is very like, wound assessment, right? Where is your border? How far inflamed does it go? And you want to lay your tape on the outside of that. Because if we lay tape on injured area, it's just going to push, and she's going to say that hurts, and it's not actually helping. So once we've delineated our location, I am going to come and grab my coverall stretch. Now, what I want you to always do with your coverall stretch, with especially the 8-inch box, I always want you to come across cutting. I never want you to really go in, because the stretch factor is this way. It's not this way. You take all the stretch out if you go into the box. So here I need to sort of analyze, what size do I need for her so that I've covered the area? And it's okay to err on the side of a little bigger, because that's not going to hurt anything, okay? And I'd rather it be a little bigger than smaller than I have to redo it. I'm going to clip my edges. Okay. Unloads always get spray, unless the athlete's allergic, and then we have to figure something out. But this is the way they're going to stay on, okay? So we're going to give her a light spray, just want to protect the table. Hold on. So now that we're going to start spraying, let's protect the table because now we're going to get really sticky. Okay. So, good. So she's back out. So now I've covered my X. Okay, you see that? So we've got everything covered. I've gone beyond. I could probably do it this way too. I'd be okay with that. But I think we're good like that. So we're gonna give her just a light spray in this general area. Let's wait. Because I didn't spray a lot, that's gonna get tacky pretty fast. And we don't want it to necessarily dry completely because that would defeat the purpose of the QDA. So now I just need to make sure all my edges now are completely covered, okay? And they are. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna create our anchor, all right? I measure. Come on, fingers. Okay, so I split it. My ruffled edge is facing inside, okay? That's more just my own personal preference because I like the edge to be sharp. Do you know what I'm saying? Against that white border. So now we've got our anchors. To create our strips, we're going to use this technique. We're going to run a piece down. This is one time you're going to use your scissor or you could rip that, but we're going to use a little scissor. I hold my one piece down and I come up. I kind of put them back together and I'm going to create strips the size I think I need based on the area I'm taping. That might do okay. All right, so now here is how you take a strip. I keep one here. I don't need this finger. I lay down, my thumb anchors. I come over here, I lift the skin. I'm pinching to lift to create slack. Do you see it? I pull and I lay it down. This is the one time where wrinkles are going to be good because then you know you've offloaded. Now, traditionally, when we get to the rest of the body, I'm going to teach you the unload as a basket weave going the opposite direction. This is one area where we do not do that because the whole injury is tractioning this way. So I'm going to use all my strips to go towards the bone. So instead of anchoring here this direction, I anchor here and I go that direction, okay? 50% over the one that went in the same direction. Anchor with my thumb, other fingers lift. I'm trying to create the unload. 50% over the one that went in the same direction. Thumb, lift, lay down. You see all the wrinkling that's now happening, right? That's good. So what we're going to do is when she goes to run or do whatever she needs to do, the forces are not going to go right to that injured spot. There's going to be this protection. It's almost like going around it, okay? 50% to the one that went in the same direction. And what we don't want to do is pull so hard that we it starts to look like an hourglass. fat on the outside, skinny on the inside. You want to pull with just enough equal support, equal force on all the strips. So I ran out, so I'm going to make a few more. This should take me to the end, 50% over the one below. That was going in the same direction. So you see how I'm holding this guy, is just hanging off there because I don't need that finger. That one looked a hair long. Just gonna do that. Okay, I feel like I'm there. We're gonna re-anchor all those pieces. Happens to my fingers too. Okay, re-anchor. Re-anchor. Now those guys are not going anywhere. I sometimes often like to anchor one on the top. So now it kind of looks like a perfect rectangle, okay? Now, if the athlete is like, that's all I want, technically they could play with just this. But if I know it's hot, it's humid, it's a 2-hour match, event, whatever, that's probably gonna start to pop off. So I prefer to use a light plastic wrap. So this is where I'm gonna be like, I hear what you're saying, but I think it's gonna be better if we wrap that to make sure it doesn't come off, then it doesn't interrupt your game, and I have to come back out there and fix it, okay? So, and they're usually like, okay, that's fine. So I'm gonna have you stand up. Now, I could have her, why don't you stand up on here so they can see. Usually I'm like, go to the floor, but for the purpose of being, for the demo. Okay, you guys are gonna see some of these around. These are used to prop the heel. Okay, and let your knee just relax. There you go. So it's just to prop the heel up. And so what we're gonna do now, because I did not spray any of this, I would go back in and give this a good spray around, because now I'm coming around the backside and I wanna make sure all this stays in place, okay? So this is the first time you're going to see a wrap now. And then we're gonna do wraps everywhere, the knee, the arm, the thighs. So what we're gonna do with our wrap is I'm gonna stay above. You see how I didn't go all the way down? Because if I go like this, then that means my light plast has to go even lower. And the athlete's already told me, like, I don't really want a lot more. So I'm gonna start this like so. I'm gonna come around, I'm gonna leave just a little bit up at the top like that. Now we're gonna do our light plast wrap. Depending on the size of this leg, I could opt for a 2-inch light plast or 3-inch light plast. So maybe with longer leg, tibia, wider, some of the guys, maybe I'm gonna opt for a 3. But most of us will do fine with a 2. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna start on this down angle, okay? You see how I put the tape up into the light plast on the unload? I'm gonna come down and around and I'm gonna catch that so that there's not a flap. We're gonna go up angle, around, down, around, up. You see it? Around, down, around, up, around, down, around, up. Now I'm gonna try to just catch that last bit and finish laterally and close it. I don't want to finish medially, because what if the foot hits and then all of a sudden this pops and this starts to unravel? Does that make sense? So you see the basket weave? It followed exactly the unload that I just did. Unload up, unload this way. It's like a fishtail. Okay? So what we don't want to do is this, to leave that to do that. Okay, that's your first wrap. Never leave it out like that. Okay, and so now we're done. And that should stay now the whole duration of their event, and it'll disperse the force so that as they run, they're not going to likely feel the pain here. This should be pain-free. So this is nice for the whole shin splint world community, right, of runners who are running out there with terrible shin splints. Number one, why are they having it? Fix the underlying root cause of the shin splint. But if there is a big event that's coming up, you can come down. If there is a big event that's coming up for them, and they've trained and trained and trained, and you're like, okay, well, if we're gonna run, like, let's protect you while you run. Okay, and that's where a nice unload comes into play. Good? Okay, so we're gonna practice the unload and the wrap, okay? So everyone's gonna do at least one of those.